hung out all morning. I got to see you guys' studio. We did a whole catch up. We basically did a podcast earlier.
We really did.
We kind of did.
But a whole catch up over the years and what's been going on. But now you guys are producing a lot for people. Like, what was the leap like? Like, oh, let's produce for people. And what were like the learning curves of that? We're not just doing our own thing now. Now we're like, someone else's art is sort of in our hands.
Yeah, I feel like the leap started when artists that we had been touring with or playing with throughout the years in Hollywood, when we had sort of gotten our start a New Beat Fund, started approaching us to produce their records because we had self-produced all of our stuff, and I feel like other artists around us sort of took note of that and sort of hit that point where we were like, well, you know, we had another mentor of ours kept asking us to help with production on his records, doing additional production, so it just seemed like a natural progression. And yeah, once we started like making the transition, touring for us, you know, it's a draining thing, especially when we were doing it for years and years. And we wound up getting a studio at Sound City, and this band called Dizzy Spells wanted us to produce their album. That was sort of what kicked it off about 5 years ago, and into us going full force into producing. As far as like challenges, I mean, you know, I feel like the psychology aspect becomes much more prominent when you're working with artists. We're used to being the difficult people that are always like, you know, bugged about all this stuff, all like the little minutia that now as producers we kind of realize is not that important to the overall picture of the song. And you know, sort of guiding people out of their comfort zones, getting them to, you know, be open to new ideas. I feel like those are things that the psychology part of it, really understanding how people work, how different quirks of artists sort of, how they tick, you know. I feel like that's like a new skill set. I feel like we were always kind of equipped with that because we all grew up working in restaurants. It's like a service business thing, you know. There's like an angry customer, you're like, all right, how do you chill them out and make them happy? So I feel like there's a bit of that has carried over into our process as producers as well.
Do like each of you is it like a good cop, bad cop kind of thing where like, oh, Shelby, go in there, like
depending on the person, yes.
Shelby keeps the productivity moving.
Shelby's
kind of like,
Shelby's the efficient one.
Quit talking here. Let's make moving forward. Yeah.
And he takes pride in the bad cop.
Yeah. I think we all have different personalities, and since we've been playing music together for like 20 years now, so we know each other really well. So when somebody else is in the mix, like we don't even need to say anything. I feel like, or like a type of personality will gravitate to one or another. You know, it kind of just works itself out. I feel like.
Yeah. We tend to just find rapport individually with each person, whereas like they have an similar interest here, and then someone else, they like animate together or something. I don't know. So we all have our individual dynamic with said artists. We work with a lot of solo artists, so typically, you know, we're becoming a family in a sense.
Right.
Gaining trust in certain places and finding connection outside of music that overall informs the music to be better, opening them up, getting to know them.
Is it usually like someone will book like a whole bunch of time or a bunch of sessions, or does someone say like, help me with my record, and you'll just kind of see how long that takes? Like,
it's project based. We don't run it like an hourly studio. It's more like what's best for the song. You know, like what do you need? What are your needs?
Nice.
That type of
which is really conducive to making music. Like, okay, we don't have the pressure of time. But then someone needs to be like, all right, let's not get too comfortable.
It's a double-edged sword.
Exactly.
It's a really we've exhausted so much life force into things that will literally never like. And I'm talking years. Like we've worked on projects for multiple years, and then like.
I think that's the hardest part about it all for us has been, ever since being an artist, I guess there's like so much music that doesn't get put out.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is probably, I think, the hardest thing to deal with, I suppose, because you're like, man, we put all this energy into these things. I think now we're sort of trying to open up doors and opportunities with like sync and license and stuff, but we've definitely like have albums and albums and hours of music just like sitting on our computer, and we're like, dang, like,
like
we would love to like get this off our hard drive at least.
Going from an artist, like we come from an artist perspective. And so it's kind of like now, instead of us being in one band and having all of our eggs in one basket, we've moved to having like 20 bands or 30 bands, and we're like, you know, dispersed over many teams and many different genres and many projects. And so it's kind of like there's more chances, I guess.
Yeah.
But also the flip side is when it's your own project, you're like, no, we're going to do this, and you make it happen. And then now where we're at like on the producer kind of songwriter side, it's kind of like, all right, we made the product for you, you have it. Now it's up to you and your team, and you kind of turn it over. It's not ours, it's theirs.
Right.
So then what do they do with it? Well, and that's where it's like tough, because we'll work on things for years or whatever, months, like the amount of life
sometimes
is
years.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
and then they're like, we're not going to put it out, and it's just like, dude, like that's why.
Like, can we have it?
Yeah. What leads them to that moment, do you think? Like, just life's change?
It's
they
their...
get self-conscious? Like, what happens that
Yeah.
to pull out?
I feel like both, like
all those things.
Getting self-conscious, maybe spending, like sometimes I think like artists, if you spend too long sitting with something, you left like grow out of it. So
Yeah.
like at some point, like putting an end to it as like a snapshot of a moment, I think is good for an artist. Not to like rush the process, but sometimes if artists are really, you know, on some type of trip or something, and 2 years go by, I mean, like they're in a different place, and then they look back at a song, they're like, no, you know, I'm doing this now. I've completely changed my sound or something.
Yeah.
So, you know, in some ways it's good to push just to like finish something, I guess. And if it sits on the vine longer, you know, sometimes that could be cool. But for the most part, artists typically will just grow out of that. And then usually what causes them, I feel like, to let it sit so long is the self-conscious part, where they're like, this is revealing, and we're like, it's so good, like put it out.
Or team or money, you know, strategy, like whatever's happening, you know, like there's so many different variables. Like there is the creative side of things where the artist themselves is like, they need to feel it and be able to like own it completely, you know. Also, that's like where we come from, like songwriting and producing with artists, is like, we know what it feels like to be an artist. We know what it feels like to be on stage, to like live the message, you know? So it has to be like honest and authentically them. So I feel like we're really good at like meeting people and like figuring out what their aura is as an artist, and then like making them something that's them, you know? Like we're, at least we try to, you know?
Yeah.
It's funny though, you're like surrogate parents, you know, like you're like, I just gave birth with you, and it's like, please raise this kid right, you know, and they're like, we're not really sending him to school. Like,
You're like,
we don't think he needs it.
You're not gonna do that?
Yeah.
And then we can't say anything, but that's a good metaphor.
Yeah.
Are you guys like, just philosophy about releasing music? You think good enough is better than perfect because at least it's out and it's not sitting in this catalog that's going to be unreleased forever?
Nowadays, I feel like I'd agree with that. Yeah, I feel like perfection is something that artists get hung up on, and then that just feeds into insecurity, never end up releasing the project because they're fearful of what people might think, or they themselves are just, I don't know, at odds with the project or whatever. Sometimes you just need to let it be, move on. It's okay to not have the perfect little thing on your first track or your first 5 tracks. I think it's all about the process and the motion of it. And I feel like for us in the stage that we're in with producing other people, it's become a lot easier for us to look at a song, be happy with where we're at with it, not get caught up in really, really small, fine details. We get in there, don't get me wrong, but when we know it's done, we're okay to send it off and move on and keep the flow going, because, you know, our mission isn't just to make one song, it's to make as many great songs as we can, really.
Right.
And, you know, we do focus on output a lot, which as producers is important to us. You know, we don't want our songs to sit on hard drives. We want our songs to be done and find homes. So if it's sync and licensing, film and TV, or if it's with an artist, we want it to see the world. And yeah, a lot of artists get hung up on just like the little minutia, the insecurity of it. And I think it's much better to leave it imperfect, and sometimes that's the beauty of it too.
Right.
Sometimes like the imperfections are the things that become my favorite things about records. In retrospect, I think that rawness adds a little bit of realness to the
realness of it.
whole thing. I think it's a reflection of where you were at the time. If you like left this little thing unkept or whatever, so it's important for people to put it out because it doesn't do any good.
It's better out than not out.
Yeah, if it's just sitting around.
Yeah.
How else do you help like people find their musical personalities, like the aura you described? Like, what is that?
Is it like, show me some music you love? Like, what's the kind of first, like the beginning? You're working with the artists you never met. You have no idea what they're like.
The first step is having a meeting. So like you came to the studio today and we just hung out. Like that's the first thing. Like, is this gonna work? Like, can we hang together? You know, like, cause it's like, there's that to start, and then it's kind of seeing what.
Did he pass?
Yeah, how'd I do? Yeah, for the first meeting.
I think you're pre-approved.
It's a high score.
You're pre-approved, honestly.
High score, yeah.
Just making sure.
Pre-approved, dude. Credit cards in the mail.
Nice.
Yeah, but I think we kind of hang and we get a vibe and a feel. And usually people, there's kind of like some people that they want to do it. I don't know, like how focused are they? You can kind of get a feel for it just based on their, like, are they there with you? Are they pushing to get it done? Do they want to, like how aggressive are they, like, to be doing their project?
Right. Or are we just kind of like, this is like a fleeting thing?
Yeah, is it fleeting or is it real? Like kind of those types of things, but
What's fueling it, a sustainable source, or is it like the crash and burn energy,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I think, talking about influences and kind of direction and vibe, and then like, can they do it? Some people are like, oh, I want to be like doing this type of music. And we're like, that's not really you, like, so then it's like, will they be on board? I don't know. There's just kind of like I think it takes doing a song or two to like share the process and the vision and like align on the process of things, and then but it also takes, I think, a few songs or like 3 to 5 songs to really find the groove and maybe like find the one song that is like paving the way for the rest of the songs. Like, so like to really do projects right, I feel like you need to do a larger number of songs.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you kind of like, let's just start burning through some. Like, then we'll find, okay, there it is. That's the one.
Find the pocket.
Maybe we'll go back to those other 4 and kind of like, now that we know what we're doing a little more, or like we found it. Yeah.
And it plays into a bit of the psychology too, because when, like, say when we first do a writing session with someone, we'll typically try to do like 2 songs in a day. So very, fundamental demos, but just go into a flow and not overthink things. And when we do that in succession, it definitely gets you out of the overthought process, and you get into just, oh, this is the act of doing. Find artists typically have more fun. They'll get more into the zone, explore the space of the studio, pick up instruments and noodle around because you kind of stop giving a fuck a little bit, or you're just a little more unaware of it. You're like, all the boundaries just sort of melt away a little bit. So that's one of the methods that we use. And not only that, is we are looking for the best things, and to, go for your first song expecting it to be the hit that everyone's looking for is a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
It takes a little bit of the pressure off and gives you the opportunity to explore sounds, find something that maybe everyone can collectively feel like, this is what's really good. Let's start here. This is the one to finish. And then this is like the nucleus of where we build. Yeah.
Is there like frustration or anything ever where people are like, I want to sound like Khruangbin? And then you start making a song, they're like, okay, this is cool, but like, it's not Khruangbin. Like, I had a sound I wanted to get, and you're like, no, but what we're making is really cool.
Yeah.
And they're like, it is, but like, there's this very specific thing I'm going for here.
Yeah.
And they just want you to like achieve that.
Right.
Does that happen a lot, or is that?
We've ran into that. Maybe, I don't know if it's like imitating artists necessarily. I feel like the thing that we run into the most is artists will take demos and they'll get outside opinions, and we notice we can always tell when someone's been influenced by like someone outside of our bubble. And that's not always a bad thing, but it's really good at certain stages in the process. So if we're, we just did day one demo and then someone comes in with vast amount of notes and we're looking at each other like, well, we haven't had a chance to really detail the work. We just splattered paint on the canvas. This is just starting to get to the picture here. And as the process goes on, we notice where the trust is sort of broken from what we're creating. And I think to be an artist that's doing something that is your own, you have to be confident and you have to feel secure in what you're saying in order to get something that is uniquely you, which is always what we're after. But when someone that might have X amount of clients, that have X amount of streams or whatever, has any bit of I don't know, just opinions that are interjected, we notice how it just influences people so quickly to change the course of what we're on. We're like, no, we've been on this mission together, and now you want to be Michael Jordan, go play baseball now? Like, what? We're about to win the NBA Finals. What are you doing? Yeah. That's I think the most frustrating thing for us, and we can always tell when it's from an outside source. And I think that's what's just interesting between us is anytime it happens, we're always just like we look at each other, we're like,
which we've kind of adjusted our process a little because of it. So we'll usually if we have like a rough demo, we won't send them. We'll sort of make the artist sit on it, maybe dwell with what they remember it as, and then come back to the studio, just hear it fresh too. Because another problem obviously is demo-itis, which happens all the time too, is like we'll make a demo and then we'll be chasing that while producing it the whole time, and they're just glued to like the way they sang it or a way a certain line. We're like, oh, this could be better, so we change it. We end up changing a melody, and they're just like can't get out of that bubble or that box because they've listened to their own song like hundreds of times already, and they're like they can't hear it another way.
Right.
So within our process, we've sort of adjusted to that too. Is like we won't send it unless we feel like, okay, show the homies it's okay, or maybe it's time for them to sit with it for a bit. So we kind of use our judgment for that. Because I guess just have hit a lot of like unfortunate roadblocks from doing that.
I think now we're a little better at saying no. So like, to certain artists. So like if somebody were to come in and want to sound like one other artist, we're kind of like, all right, is this someone we want to be like, that we want to put energy into? Are you trying to create something new? Like, like let's make something that's bigger than that, or like different, like to just chase something that's already happening is like, I don't know if that's exactly productive,
Yeah.
But and I think this kind of goes into finding an art. Like I think we have all these like things that we've kind of figured out internally that help us or work. But really what we're after is somebody that has like vision and talent that is worth putting a lot of like time, energy, equity into, to build great songs and to build like a full project, because then they can perform it, they can own it, it's truly them, they're collaborating with us, they're not dictating what the project is. They're involved in the creative, they're not like a creative dictator,
Sure.
And that's like, to really stumble across like magic and music in general is like, it's kind of like a vibe and energy and like, what are they saying? Do you have something that you want to say to the world? Are you just saying like, what are you talking about in your music? Like all those things factor in, and we'll kind of work on a bunch of different things, but then there's some special things within all the people that we work on that are like, okay, this is like worth that extra bit, or like that kind of like we're searching for in clientele or people that we're collaborating.
Do each of you have something you kind of hone in on? Like, for example, for me, I don't even pay attention to lyrics when I hear a song. Like I'm listening to like the beat or something like that. Whereas like Christine will be like, wow, what a great song. I'm like, that song sucks. She's like, didn't you hear like that part about like their teacher? It's all she hears.
For me, for sure.
So this is a funny.
I feel like there's two people like either you hear the music or you hear the lyrics first.
Sure.
Like, which one do you think you guys are?
Well, I feel like it's evolving constantly. I feel like, I don't know. I think my role is definitely melody, lyrics, chords, and like that, the song on paper in a way, I guess. If you were to like, here's the Beatles song, and you're like, all right, you can cut it however way you want. I feel like that's a lot of ways my world is like this. So I think I listen more for that currently. You guys can.
I feel like for songwriting's sake, when we're working with other people, I like an artist. I just love an artist with a point of view. Like I don't, if we're doing like a writer's room or whatever, I don't like sitting on like the small details of lyrics when people are like, well, how, like just trying to like morph a cliche or whatever. Sometimes that stuff's frustrating for me. I just like someone with a point of view that's like, I can write a lyric here that feels true to you and then true to them, and then I like to, be like, oh, maybe phonetically it doesn't sound good, and like let's tweak it, let's alter it, or even build from there. But and even as far as like production, like I'm obsessed with production. I love a lot of music that doesn't have vocals in it too. So when I hear a certain lyric, to me it always dictates for me how the production is going to be directed. Like whatever like the main hook is. Maybe that's what I'm most after, is like a good hook. I think a good hook can generally be morphed into a good song. Without a good message or just like a good, we'll call it a thesis, there's nothing to make. And I don't like when artists come in and write verses. I want a subject, a thesis statement. Like what is it? What is it? And I think that comes from like a core thing of what someone wants to say.
Nice.
So again, if it's, and sometimes like a verse thing can be cool, like we can flip it, we can find our avenue, we'll get there, but that's always what I'm looking for. And the second that spark happens, that's when the world of production just sort of opens. Like the picture begins to be like, oh, does that lyric feel upbeat? And like, right, we were just working on this song, this artist, she's writing a song, a deep love song, like very, very like about being together forever, and we're working on these production ideas, and just like the lyric itself will inform how you make things go sonically. And when we're producing and putting together a track, those are always the things that excite me, get me involved in a track. And yeah, Jeff is really the melody man. He's the guy that's always like looking after the chords and stuff, making sure that they all sound good. And I probably sit more in bass, drums. I'm a bass player first and foremost. Drums, those, and I'm like hip hop, dance music. I love all that stuff, and that tends to be more my world. Making sure groove elements, things, all that mesh together, and everyone can. It has its maybe like its rhythmic pulse as well.
Right.
Yeah.
But boiling it down to like, what is this song about? Like, give me a sentence or a statement. Like, what is the song about? Because sometimes there's not an answer. Like,
yeah, sometimes there's not. And even the thing is, even if it's kind of like doesn't have like substance or whatever.
Sure.
I'm not even so much interested in the substance. If it's a party song, that's great. As long as it's said in a way that feels authentic and feels, I don't know, original in a way, or just original to the person's experience, and I'll be on board with it. And I can see it go a lot of different ways. But we've definitely been in writing rooms where someone just has no point of view, and we're there like trying to mine barren land, and it's just not gonna happen. It was like no matter what we say, no matter what we try to dig, we try to like. We'll like try to just put their mind frame in a movie, for instance, and it still doesn't work. And we're like, I don't know. Maybe this just isn't the connection. Maybe there's somewhere else to go. Maybe this isn't the route.
Yeah.
But that's ultimately, yeah.
Yeah, nice.
I think when I was younger, it was more about music. As I'm getting older, like the lyrics are more of a thing, Nice. And like he's like they're both saying, but I think it's, honesty like if you're trying to write something that's like not you, like it's like what do we, like
believability.
Yeah, like
do I believe you when you're saying it?
Yeah, and like right now there's this dude on YouTube. His name's Jesse Wells, and he's kind of just getting big, but he does these folk songs where he just plays guitar and he sings, and he's like in the forest, like in like whatever.
I feel like JC showed us that guy.
like,
Someone has showed us him.
Yeah.
We've heard of him.
But he and he's just doing a bunch of songs, but they're folk songs, and he just kind of like picking, like and melodically, and he does chords. But his lyrics and what he's saying, like, it's just so fascinating to me because he's commenting on like society, politics, culture, and it's like he's actually like this kid, and he's like us where he's been in bands for years and years and years, and there's like history in his music presence, but this current thing that he's doing is like it's just him like and a guitar in the forest and a camera, and he's just like every day he has a song and he has something to say about like something that happens in the world, and then he comments on it, and
also with like so much emotion too, like just so
eloquent, so much poetry, and he's not taking sides, he's just commenting on on these like, and using words in such a really cool way that like inspires you to think about the topic, and that like I don't know if he could ever become like a massive hit pop star guy, with what he's doing, but those moments and those songs are just so fascinating to me. They make me feel things where I'm like, damn, this is like, dude, this is just a man with a guitar and he's like doing it, But I think, for us, it's our job. We'll have artists come in. Sure, we can write songs and write lyrics and give them a song. Like we obviously know how to do that, but that's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to help them bring out the best in whoever's in the studio with us, So it's like, how do we do that? How do we bring out, I think in my part of my role too is more moving. I'm just trying to move things along, like productivity. Like if we're hung up here, or like are we hangry? What's going on? Like how do we get to the next phase?
Right.
How do we unlock everybody? But I think in general we're after honesty. It's like weird when somebody comes in and they're not themselves, which it's not uncommon. I will say that.
Yeah.
What about like disarming people? How do you help people shake off the nerves?
I feel like we use humor a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of humor.
Jokes.
Keep things lighthearted.
There you go.
Just feel like you're hanging out in the studio, like no pressure. There's nothing like big going on here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like even serious songs, there's like fun involved, you know, like just, like it doesn't like, the listener's mind, it might be like, candles and a hunched over guitar vibe, but like, we like to just, I guess, have fun, and sometimes the best connections lyrically or whatever, or ideas just come from like joking around or like playing around and be like, oh, it'd be funny to do like an Eminem part in this like serious, and then it's like, wait, that lyric was off center and it just kind of clicked or something, So yeah, I think we like, at least our approach is like have fun and keep it lighthearted. It does get serious, but
I think also just creating a good home, like our studio is chill, we're chill dudes. It's like the whole, and that's like even scheduling a session and being like, cool, we're going to get a song. Like, well, the first time we hang, like we just need to build some sort of a relationship, like a little relationship. So there's always like a little like getting to know each other, talking,
Sure.
And that goes into like our personalities where certain people gravitate, and like I feel like between us three we can keep it moving, we're not like hung up or getting, I mean, sometimes people just get tired or they're like not into it or whatever, and that's where like us kind of facilitating too, like, all right, let's end for today, or like,
I mean, it's almost like a hypnotism a little bit, like keeping this like elevated like focus and like feeling within the studio, not like you're manipulative or anything like that, but like let's just like trying to keep it up, keep you like right there, right where that sweet spot is, that like you're kind of loose and you're having fun, like you're trying to like maintain this like energy. It's almost hypnotizing.
it is a bit of a smoke and mirrors, dog and pony show. Like for us, we're in the studio every day. Literally that's our home. Like it's no big deal to us. We're like, it's just another day. But when people are working on their project and they're really precious about their things, that they've been waiting, they've been gearing up or like whatever. It's been, it's a big moment for them. So, there's a lot of that where we're trying to make the experience good, but then at the same time, like achieve what we need to and push it along.
Sure.
Yeah. That's where us having known each other for so long, we'll do things without anyone knowing, or like we'll kind of like we have our process and things will happen, like while there's other things happening,
Work husbands.
Work husbands.
Yeah.
There you go.
I joke that sometimes Paul and I share a brain because I'm like, I don't, there's so much unspoken communication that happening in
for sure.
any
She'll be like, and I'll be like, you want your phone? I'll give you your phone. I was like, you can have it. Yeah. Sure.
That's great.
We have survived many marriages.
Yeah.
So I think playing together for 20 years for sure is like, there's a lot. We know too much about each other.
Right.
At this point.
We know too much.
That's fun. I was gonna ask if you guys each have like a project or an artist or a song in particular that you feel very proud of, that people could listen to.
Of our work?
Yeah. Either your work or facilitating with other artists. Either way.
Sure.
I'm putting you on the spot.
Okay.
Yeah, like if someone's like, show me some of your production.
Okay, sure. Should we just go
I
down the
revealed,
line?
I guess when Paul came to the studio today, I was like, play our song Facts.
Yeah.
That came out
there
this
we go.
I like that
So
actually.
I'll do a little plug because
There you go.
I feel like we never usually show people our own material, but since we know you and we have history there, I was like, oh, let's play him a newer.
I mean, that's
one of our
awesome.
songs.
Yeah.
So
I was happy to hear it.
Yeah, that was
I thought that in the studio we showed Paul one of New Beat Fun's songs,
Yeah.
Facts, and it's kind of a newer one that he hasn't heard. And I was like, damn, Jeff really he straight up requested Facts be played right now.
I was just
Good.
like,
Okay.
Paul's here. He knows.
Yeah, it's
He knows the history.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
lineage.
yeah.
The coins, your guys' EP,
Yeah.
like we had it on loop in our tour bus on Warped Tour. Like we fucking loved it.
Oh yeah.
Which-
You said this was like the one band you never got tired of hearing open up and play.
Well, there was them and Wallpaper.
Okay.
Were like the
Wallpaper,
two.
yeah.
Yeah. When Stefan Jacobs was here, we talked.
Yeah.
We were talking
Yeah.
pretty highly about
Gotcha.
Wallpaper.
Wallpaper was great.
They're
Yeah.
great,
Yeah.
And the guy from Wallpaper ended up like doing Lizzo's album, like Lizzo's breakout shit. I just found out today.
Yeah.
Cool.
How do you guys feel like?
Wait. We got two.
Okay,
more.
sorry.
We got two more answers.
You're right.
here.
Okay, I'll do another plug. Actually, well, it's an artist that we've been working with for a long time from Colombia. Her name's Vale. We did this song called Fit Mommy. It's like a very up-tempo dance track, Latin infused, and I feel like that song was sort of a great territory for us as like a really upbeat track, mixed a lot of elements really well, and I think it was just like a seamless, really flowing motion in the studio, which whenever we look back on songs that we've done, I feel like that's always, it puts a smile on our face when we can think back to the whole creation of it. And that one was definitely just a really easy flow.
Cool.
Not too many roadblocks. And it just came out recently, so
Fit Mommy.
Fit Mommy.
All right.
Beautiful.
I like this.
Yeah.
You, Shelby. What's-
She got Shelby.
Well, I guess maybe I'll take a different approach here. I feel proud about kind of just the business that we've built with our studio business, like as because there's obviously songs throughout the years. There's so much music and so much to be proud of, whether it's live or recordings or other artists or us. But like, I think building kind of like a home studio where we have like a process and like a purpose that we do, and it is like really rewarding and hopefully eventually lucrative. But like any business, it's just like it takes time, and it's just a thing that we can nurture and build. And I think I'm proud of just us three doing that and kind of being together this long to do that.
The three of us are Shelby's favorite song.
Yeah.
I mean, it is impressive that you guys
Yeah.
haven't like killed each other yet or something like that.
Yeah.
Touring with each other. You
Yeah.
think brothers is probably a big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of a glue there.
Yeah. But
We have our moments.
there are brothers that we do have
That's
our
true.
moments.
Yeah.
But you're not Oasis.
We're not Oasis, not yet.
Wait, all three of you are brothers?
No, just them two.
We're brothers.
Oh, okay.
Another mother brother.
Yeah, another
Got
brother.
you.
we've known
They
each other.
grew up
I'm like
together.
staring at all your
How
faces.
old were you
like,
guys?
okay.
You said like 18 or so?
17.
17, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was 13, I think, when we started our first band.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you were the young boy in the
It's the young buck.
young buck.
Sneaking into
Yeah.
the Viper room.
Nice.
I mean, we used to go to Vegas, and he wasn't even 21 yet, and he would use our drummer's ID and just
Yeah.
get in everywhere, and we're like, dude, this fucking kid.
It was great.
He literally, he had older bros all along the way, just
Yeah.
pulling him up, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So funny.
That's how the kids get by. That's what you gotta do.
I know.
Are you like? I was always the youngest. Like in Beebs, I was like the youngest by far,
Yeah.
and like I felt like I always had older friends. Like I was just felt like the youngest guy in the room a lot.
Sure.
But now I'm not. Now like there's always like a younger dude
Right.
who's like more successful than me or whatever. But like, like
Yeah, what's up with that?
is that? Are you going through that? Like, wow, I'm not the like kid anymore. Like that was like a default for me, and like
Yeah, maybe I did for a moment. The weird thing was when we toured, and I always felt like I was older than my actual age.
okay.
Like I would be the same age as whatever someone, and then I would feel like because I was around so many older people, like I would almost consider myself older than I was.
Nice.
So in retrospect, I'm like, oh, I actually was, I don't know, I was like 23. I was like a fucking kid. And why did I think I was like, I don't know. I feel like it added a weird layer of pressure on myself for some reason. I don't know why. But all to say, nowadays, I mean, I don't really care. I still feel like I'm the youngest amongst us because, you know, I'm like the younger
Still
bro.
are. Yeah.
I don't think that dynamic ever really goes away. But maybe I do relate to some artists that we work with, maybe in the sense of what a young person versus older business teams mean, how your ideas come across, how...
He just likes TikTok better than us.
I do like, yeah. maybe I keep up with the shit a little more. Maybe I'm a little more into that. But just in general, I feel like a young person against, you know, as you're an artist, and we've experienced this ourselves many times, young artists, you know, you start to grow your business team, whether it be management, agent, whatever, label, A&R, and because they're older than you, that you start to believe that their opinions and their words are more valid.
Yeah.
And I feel like being where I'm at and in the position we're in as producers, it's always obvious to me when it's happening. And not only that, it reminds me of things that we had gone through when our path had been deterred, or, you know, someone might have said something that, you know, might have like gotten us off track from what our true mission was. So maybe I relate to that in a way, and maybe that helps with connecting to people when we're working together. So maybe there's a little bit of wisdom that I sort of acquired through all that now I can try to help people as much as they can. I mean, when you're experiencing it, it's a whole other thing. And even still, you know, if someone has accolades or whatever and they were like, hey, the fun track is shit, you know, it still might, like, it definitely wouldn't affect me as much as it did. I don't think we really give a fuck that much anymore, but back then I know that it would have. And
They never say that though. Ever.
no, our songs are all imperfectly perfect. You know, we don't overthink them, but they're thought just enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what's your guys' comfort level like showing me facts? What, like, because sometimes a rapper will show me one of their songs and they're like making eye contact with me. They're like rapping the song to me.
Right.
But I feel like when I show someone music, like I'm like this, you know, like,
Yeah.
you know, like, I don't know, what's your comfort level when it comes to stuff like that?
My listening experience is definitely not performing when listening. I don't know if we ask someone to acoustically perform a song for us, that's one thing. But typically when we show music or listen to it, I just want to listen. I want to experience my own world in my own head. I want to see what feelings that words mean or don't mean and make me feel like they mean. All these things. I want to get wafted away.
But when you're showing someone your music, what are you feeling?
Well, in the case of Facts, I feel very strongly about the composition, so I feel great about it.
So you're just good.
Yeah, because the
Healthy
composition's
confidence.
great. But yesterday we showed a song that we were literally retracking vocals to, and someone came in that works in our complex, wanted to hear the song. It was like this whole thing, and that pissed me the fuck off. I was actually really pissed. Like it like genuinely irritated me.
Because it wasn't ready.
Yeah.
It was not ready. I didn't even want to listen to it, and for me to listen to something that I know I don't want to hear because it's not ready is a waste of my time. It just fucks with my idea making, and it like gets me it just puts me in a bad headspace about moving forward on something. It's like if I know, I don't know, it's just not a good thing. And then not only that, this person then elected themselves to have notes on some shit, and we were just like, I'm about to throw this motherfucker out of here.
Wow, this turned vent.
It kind of did, honestly. It did.
Because you're like, I don't even like it. Like I got notes
That's the
too.
thing,
Like I
it's
don't
like-
need your notes. Like we're changing everything.
Like, there's like, this isn't a composition
too
to be
early.
reflected
It was
on. This
too
isn't,
early.
this
But-
isn't
Yeah,
something to judge.
This is the balance though. Paul's a little sensitive about these types of things. Okay. And I'm like, hey, this is like politics, like literally our community. This dude is you know, whatever. This is like the game we gotta play. You know, it's like we have people in the studio, they're like hanging, you know, they're feeling like catching up and like being like, oh, this guy, you know, in particular, he hasn't done music in a long time, so he feels he's in a music studio and he's like ready to whatever. He's
I
feeling
better say something. You know?
Yeah.
So
And I love the guy. Like, don't get me
Right.
wrong. It's a great fucking person.
no, but it's just like it's true. It wasn't ready to hear, but also like, you know, they know it's all in process. But yeah, for me, I don't mind playing stuff. It's like I'm like, let's let it rip. You want to hear something? Let's go.
Nice.
You know, like let's
Yeah.
bump it. I'm always like two things that bug me is when it's played lower in volume, when it's like too low. Because like when you're working on music, you do listen very low because you're listening a lot, and like as you become really good at making music, like you actually listen at lower volumes. Occasionally you bump it, but when you're showing something, I feel like bumping it is like
Only way.
it's important.
You gotta bump it.
But then also what bugs me is when people don't play songs all the way through. They kind of like taper it off. I'm like, what's up? You
How'd
know,
that
like,
end? Come on.
yeah, like what about that bridge? Let's hear be proud of the whole thing. You know, like which this day and age it is a thing. Like if a song feels long or like you've heard it a million times, you know, but I think just like, you know, that like showing it and being proud of it and being like, yo, yeah, check it out.
I feel you though. I'm usually the like, I wish I could hit play and run out of the room, and then
Right.
like, just maybe send me a postcard on how you thought about it, like type of vibe. Like,
I'm not making eye contact.
Yeah,
For sure.
exactly.
While you're hearing my song.
Yeah.
I'm
No.
not making eye contact
No.
with you.
No,
I'm gonna like gauge your vibe from the like corner of my eye.
exactly. Yeah. I feel that 100%. A lot of artists that we work with too, it's like this. They're the same way, you know. It is, and we're asking them to share demos.
Oh, that's
and
hilarious.
The thing I think we get most is like, it's one thing showing a finished product, and then like sharing their little demos is like we're like, look, it's cool. We get the process. We've done this a million times. Like, we understand this isn't perfect. And they're all like, it's always the rollout of excuses of like, oh, but like, just so you know, like the guitar, like we're like, let's just listen to it. But but before we listen to it,
Yeah.
like,
A few things you should know.
yeah.
So
So
I would just like, it's not mixed.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
how often do you hear that? Or do you ever say that? Like,
yeah.
"Well, let's check out this. It's not mixed, by the way.
Yeah.
Not final mix.
Yeah.
Like, you always gotta say it.
The pre-demo spiel
Yeah.
is what it's hilarious every time too. It's like what
Every
he's
time,
saying.
yeah.
It's like the same thing. It's like, okay, well, like, so, and it's just like they get into their insecurities or
Sure.
like, you know, trying to preface us. It's really funny.
But I think they just don't understand the way that we hear songs from a completely different point of view. Like when they're showing us a song, they're thinking that it's a shitty voice recording. We're listening to it for like sparks.
Right.
You know, we're looking for that one phrase, the one little chord part, the one melody where we're like, yo, that's it. Mm-hmm. And because that's like the whole part of what we do is just understanding what that moment is and building upon it. So for us, a voice memo, we're probably just sifting through, similar to like sifting through a sample or something. We're just looking for that one thing. We're just like tuned in. The second we hear it, we'll be like, yeah, that's it. We'll look at each other, that's it. And then we'll just go.
Yeah.
Nice.
But the second you're breaking out a voice memo to show someone, like, we already know what it is. Like, come on. Like,
Right.
You know, like, we get it. You recorded this in your bedroom and you played acoustic and you know, it's not perfect. We get
Right.
it.
Yeah.
But our job, that's what's hilarious. We try to just make people feel good about it. We're like, we get it. We know the process. We've done it a million times. We're the ones that make your, you know, record sound nice and shiny.
Right. If it was perfect, what would we even be doing?
like,
Yeah,
what
yeah.
are we
It's
doing?
like,
You know, so
that sounds great, man.
Yeah, you're done.
but it just goes into, you know, the psychology of things where you're like, you're trying to make them feel comfortable and like want to share and be vulnerable, you know? So like, really that's what it is. It's like an artist being vulnerable in the studio, whether it's talking about their lives and just sharing personal information about themselves, which helps later on when we've already broken down some of those barriers to be like, oh, you should do this. And they're like, yeah, I should, you know, because they feel comfortable or, you know, but the demo thing is really
The
fun.
caveats
Yeah.
for the demo.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, it's
amazing.
fun.
Yeah.
Managing expectations.
Yeah, managing expectations.
Yeah.
But every now and again, we'll get someone that's just, you know, maybe a little overly confident. You know, we're like,
Bless them, you know, those people. I don't know where they get
Yeah.
that energy from.
It is. Sometimes I'm
Yeah,
like,
where the
maybe it's
hell
an
did they get
energy,
it? 'Cause
or
I
maybe
want it.
it's like they watch the Kanye doc and they think it's
Yeah.
how you're supposed to act.
Yeah.
But
Perhaps.
that sometimes is funny too. But you know, we understand all of it. Even as someone that comes off really, really upfront like that, it usually it fizzles to being
Right,
like
you
this
can't
is-
hold that forever.
you can't.
Like,
Yeah.
It'll
You can't.
level out.
Yeah, you eventually reveal the reality of it. You know, when you're sitting in a room with a bunch of people working on a record for 8 hours straight, you eventually are just like, I'm just gonna be me.
Yeah, nowhere to hide.
Yeah, I don't want to. I don't want to put on a facade.
Yeah,
Or
it's exhausting.
it is. Yeah.
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 Do you guys remember, like, growing up, what was, like, the moment, the song, the album that you heard where you're like, whoa, there's, like, production going, like, where you realize, like, oh, shit, they panned that or they did that, like, that there's, like, just even the idea of producing a song, not just, like, writing it and performing it, but this, like, studio. Do you remember that? Is there a moment for you like that? Or a certain...
For me, I think I was obsessed with Aaliyah. She had this song on a Dr. Dolittle soundtrack
Okay.
called "Are You That Somebody?" And I remember Timbaland was in the video and he was like singing on the track, like he had like these little ad libs and stuff he'd do on the track, and I was like, dude, I love this song. Like I love that guy. I went to go find his record and I couldn't find it, and that's when I found out what a producer was. And at the time, I didn't even realize we'd grown up playing live instruments, so I never understood how he even made that stuff until much later on. But I think that was the first time that I was really interested in someone that created the track more so than the artist. So that would probably be the moment for me.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, that'd be like my entryway.
Yeah, like when I first heard the Backstreet Boys, I thought they were playing all the instruments. I thought they did everything.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I didn't really realize, like, oh no,
Yeah.
they're just like singing on top of something.
Yeah.
But yeah, what about for you guys?
Yeah, I think for me, weird one was I remember hearing "Smells Like Teen Spirit" on the radio, which is kind of like it feels unproduced. But I remember asking my mom, I was like, because I was young, obviously, and then he was like, or she was like, I was like, how did he get his voice to sound like that? And it was like the double tracking of the voice, and it was like the first time I've heard that, and I was like, something's different here. Like it just doesn't sound like a guy singing, which obviously look like going through the tracks and they're now on YouTube and stuff. And Butch Vig talks about how he like had a hard time getting him to double track his voice. I know that's very raw production, kind of elementary, but I was like, the first thing I ever noticed was like, why does his voice not sound like one? I was like, and I figured my mom would know. I was like, Mom, what is this? We're listening to Nirvana. Like, that's just a surreal moment. But
What'd
yeah.
she say?
Yeah, did she know?
She didn't
Did
know.
say, like, you
Yeah,
dubbed
she
it?
didn't know. She was like, I don't know.
Oh, funny.
Yeah. So I think that was
Like, no, this shit's just sick.
that was like the first. That was the first thing, and I loved the sound of it. And I was just like, whoa, that's crazy. Yeah. So that was my probably first like whoa, you could do that on
Right,
tape.
there's something else happening here.
Yeah. It's not just people playing
Right.
like completely live. So
I was super into Michael Jackson. Like I had his videos, like VHSs, like of like Dangerous and Bad and all the music video stuff, and I loved Michael Jackson. And I had this little Emerson tape recorder that like you could record on tapes. So there was like a live on TV. He like did a concert or something, and at the time I was sharing a bedroom with both of my brothers. So there's 3 of us in one room. And I like moved the table, turned up the TV like super loud, and then like push record on my Emerson to like get the TV audio onto the tape,
Nice.
And I like set it all up, and then I like shut the door, and I was like, "Don't go in there,"
You don't want to see this.
It's like, no, I'm recording.
Why don't sit?
But that was like the first time that I probably recorded anything. But
Oh, wow.
I had like a little tape, like this little Emerson tape thing. That it was
That's
cool.
pretty sick. So
Yeah.
you just got it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just I don't know that I knew what I was doing. I just
Right.
like loved Michael Jackson, which
Sure.
obviously he's kind of the king of production, to be honest. Like
Yeah.
his music still, the production holds up.
Well, and talk about like starting with like a voice memo. Like, wouldn't he go to Quincy Jones just like, I want a song like this, like,
Yeah.
Like,
He would mouth
Insane.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I always remembered the MTV Unplugged as like that moment for me where I was like, oh, you can strip down a performance and like take
yeah.
away all these elements, and then it would be like, oh, I like that version so much more than the radio edit, and like they were always so much more vulnerable and just
Yeah.
like focused on the artist. I always thought that was cool.
Just like a different
Yeah.
version of the song.
Yeah. And then I kind of became obsessed with like female vocalists would cover a male vocal and vice versa. I remember being like really into songs like that for a long time. Just
Yeah.
like, oh, it's so different. It's turned upside down.
Nice.
Yeah.
And always, felt cool that I'd found some like more obscure version of the song,
Sure.
For sure.
It's really interesting learning the separation of song and recording.
right.
Even like figuring out Bob Dylan's songs are covered by like literally everybody and stuff like that. Like that blows my mind too. When the song goes into the ethos,
Yeah, I mean that happens so much on TikTok now. What's that song by Hosier about I Take My Whiskey Neat? That
yeah.
song, like I heard somebody cover it before I ever heard him, and now
yeah.
I'm like, like her version's the right one in my mind,
Yeah.
and his is beautiful too,
original.
and
Yeah.
I like him as an artist, but it's like not what's right in my mind.
Yeah.
Wow.
I
It's
know.
interesting, and I feel like because TikTok is the meter, that's a good thing, right? Like for an artist, like you
Yeah.
kind of want people to use your song sound, so that's an interesting thing to notice, I guess. Just
Yeah.
like that, it's if someone else is covering your song, then that means you're doing well. Like your song's doing well.
The song is good
Yeah,
itself.
yeah.
It's not just like, oh, I just like love the idea of Hosier, so I'm
Yeah.
gonna listen to it.
Yeah,
Like, no,
exactly.
It's a good song.
It's
Yeah.
true because he has such a unique tone of voice too.
Yeah.
That's like so full. It's hard
Right.
to kind of, I would imagine, fill the space
replicate
that
that,
that his voice leaves behind. But
Yeah.
it's interesting.
Yeah, and sometimes
the
a
lyrics
song-
still strike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes the song goes so beyond, like, Seven Nation Army.
Right.
Like, can you imagine? Like, that's just like Jack White just sat down one day, just like bum 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 bum,
Crazy.
and it's like every football game,
Soccer
like
stadium.
over the big speakers. At one point, they always go like
Yeah.
bum
Yeah.
bum 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 bum.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's
So anthemic.
it's so beyond.
Yeah.
Everyone knows that melody that wouldn't even know it's a White Stripes song. Maybe you've never even heard Seven Nation Army. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
like Patty
crazy.
Pimblett, the UFC guy, they do like, oh, Patty the baddie. Like they sing his name. Yeah, like
Yeah,
in
really the
the
melody,
crowd,
yeah.
that's how they sing his name. And it's the Seven Nation Army
That's
melody.
crazy.
I don't know if anyone even realizes that's what they're doing. Like that melody totally transcended Jack White.
That's amazing.
Dude, that's what's crazy about this is did you guys see that girl that sang the national anthem
Oh
and
yeah,
she like
the
butchered
terrible
it?
performance
Yeah.
the other day.
Oh, yeah?
Oh yeah.
How did I miss this?
Yeah.
I love this kind of
very,
shit.
very viral moment
Oh, God.
happening right now in like a bad way. But this girl, and the national anthem, it's a very well-known song. Actually, one of the most covered songs. It is a cover. Like anytime you hear it, it's covered.
Yeah.
But everybody knows the intervals. Like And this girl literally takes it on a walk in like the worst ways.
Wow.
It was
I gotta
something
find
else.
It
this.
was like up with
It's
Fergie's.
painful.
I
No,
will say
it was worse than Fergie's.
I had to.
I'm pretty sure.
I had to look up her music.
Oh, yeah.
because of it.
What did
I
you
was
think?
like, I need to see, cause it's so bad. I want to see like, can she sing? Like, what's going on here? Yeah, she had some good tunes, and she
Okay.
actually
Yeah,
had.
maybe
She did
was
it
a
on
stunt.
purpose.
Yeah, exactly.
She had yeah, she's got a lot of
Okay,
plays.
so what happened
Yeah.
was she sings the national anthem really horribly. It goes completely viral. And then she comes out with a statement saying that she checks herself into like rehab for alcohol. You know, but it was like Grammy nominated, 6-time Grammy nominated artist,
she's
country
Grammy
artist. You
nominated.
know, like
I showed Kayla. Kayla's like, yeah, she looks hammered.
she
Kayla,
That girl's tanked.
Oh,
Okay.
so she was
Yeah.
just drunk.
I think she was just drunk.
What? She was just
Yeah,
hammered.
like
Wow.
it was a game in Texas too, so you know they probably partied a little before,
Dang.
as the Texans do.
Well,
either way though, it's
Best
like
thing she ever did for her career. Goodness.
yeah,
I've come to
Yeah.
the
Terrible to
conclusion about this topic. Like, you don't have to be the best singer. You don't have to have like the best, you know, timbre voice or vibrato or whatever. But like, you just need to hit those intervals correct if you're gonna sing something. You know, just so that it triggers everybody's like remembrance of the song. You know, because when you really veer off of it, it's like, whoa, there was like audible gasps. Like the whole stadium was like, ugh, like, Jesus.
Well, like, because the average listener needs those
Yeah.
those audible like checkpoints.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Like, oh right, there's the rhythm again. Like,
Yeah.
I got it again.
Right.
You know, but man.
Funny too, the audience, like most people probably couldn't sing it.
No.
Like from
No.
scratch, like just
I doubt
not.
it.
You don't get to read it. You
Yeah.
just have to sing the national anthem without making a mistake. Most people wouldn't, but you can hear a mistake.
Right.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
problem. Like I
For
know
sure.
I know when you're not doing it right.
Yeah.
And when you're the singer, like you can't. You have to know it all.
Yeah.
You got it.
You gotta.
Yeah,
You gotta
It's
know.
such
you gotta
a
be
hard
prepared.
song.
Gotta
You
know
gotta
it.
come correct.
and it's a tough one,
It's tough.
It's a tough one, yeah.
and everybody knows it. So you like, if you mess up, you know, like, yeah, people are gonna be like, they messed up.
Right.
The lyric was wrong. The melody. It's
But
you
it
gotta
just-
be. I think you gotta be ballsy just to try it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree because like,
Yeah.
how does it not go to your head? Like, oh shit, like I'm at
Yeah.
the Super Bowl. Like what?
Yeah.
And then you're just like, and the bomb.
Yeah. For real.
But you know, interestingly, it was like a kind of an awful event. But you checked her out.
I did.
So like, is it really a bad event? Like I don't know.
True.
She's probably
I went straight to her Spotify page.
Okay.
And I
Wow.
went and listened to her top 2
How,
songs.
is she
on,
popular? Like
She's
I don't-
very popular.
Okay.
She's got 2 million monthly listeners.
Okay.
Her songs had well over hundreds of millions of plays.
Okay.
So yeah,
Wow.
she's doing all right.
6-time Grammy
Yeah,
nominated.
there's probably why she was there.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Who knows?
the
I mean, maybe
performance-
this was like a sobering moment for her, and
Yeah.
it ended up
Sounds
being
like it was.
an interesting,
Yeah.
like pivotal moment. It's interesting that a lot of the times the moments that feel like such failures or like losses end up becoming valuable.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. True.
Sometimes you just can't predict.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what's
these
gonna shake out.
Yeah.
in my like older, or like in this era for me, I'm like, is anything good or bad? Like I don't take anything as good or bad because you just don't know. It could be good like right now, but then in 2 years it's horrible for you. Or it could be awful right now, but then it turns out to be like incredible.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
like and it's just kind of like, you know, taking it so serious in the moment maybe is like
So, and the mistake, like we were saying with like production, the mistake might be everyone's favorite part
Yeah.
about it, like, or like the fuck up. Like we were in Italy and we went to the Leaning Tower of Pisa. And I was looking at this thing, I was like, I think this is the world's most famous mistake.
Yeah.
And like, if they didn't fuck it up, I would not know about this fucking
no.
spot. I
Right.
wouldn't
Yeah.
be here. I wouldn't be buying a fucking
Yeah.
pizza from the guy. Like this, this whole city
Yeah.
is like
Built on a
their
mistake.
entire economy is based on this fuck up.
wow.
You know, like it's just kind of. I bet at the time someone was really sorry. I keep grabbing your hair.
Yeah.
I bet at the time whoever fucked it up was like
Pissed.
Yeah.
pissed,
How
ashamed.
could you do this?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
there was a lot of this
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah,
A lot of,
Tomatoes at
hand
that
gestures,
guy.
angry hand.
yeah, the world's most famous mistake. And
Yeah.
you
Wow.
never know.
It's true.
There's a life lesson somewhere in there.
Some.
I think so.
So when you guys are producing music, is it the fund? Like, is that like produced by the fund?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like it. And the commas are
Oh, this is the
are
best
always
question.
there.
Yeah, they are.
Good.
Let's
I
see.
like
It's representative of
What do you think?
it's a visual play of the word.
Maybe you know what it is.
So
Oh, well, okay. I see it now. Now that you said it's a visual play on the word, it's like a million.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't have got it till you just said it's a visual play on
you
the
would be
word.
surprised how many people cannot put that
I was
together.
over here squinting like, what am I missing?
But you put it together
also,
fast.
That was good.
Paul.
That was good.
It could be 9,999,999.
True.
Yeah.
That's
It doesn't
true.
have to be a million.
So we're doing,
Just saying.
what's it called? Six figures. Six figures.
Yeah.
It's a six-figure
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah.
Six-figure situation.
Exactly.
But yeah, you'd be surprised how many people ask us that and how many people can't put it together. I think you're maybe only the second person
Yeah.
to do it.
On
That was
camera.
pretty quick.
On record.
Nicely.
Look at that
Really
on record.
quick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was
Look,
quick.
look, look.
Honestly, you definitely hold the record.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because I feel like for us, we looked at it and we're like, it seems obvious to us. I don't know if it was because we just collectively
Well, you can't
understood
unsee it now. Like once you
Yeah,
see
yeah.
it, you can't unsee it.
But
Yeah.
that's like another lesson on artistry because so many painstaking choices are involved in every process, every step of the process, but the average consumer is not necessarily
Picking it
receiving it
up,
all the same way. You
Yeah.
know, it's like there's
Yeah.
the intention and the impact, and they don't always necessarily align.
Yeah.
Right.
So I don't know. Again,
Which I
think-
usually like when
Yeah.
it doesn't align, because then you're like, well, like then you're like, that person's interpretation is it's better than what I meant by it.
yeah, let's go with that.
Let's go with that. I like that.
I like that.
Yeah, you're good.
You're exactly right. That's exactly what it was about.
This kind of circles back to the beginning where we were like talking about lyrics or music or like what you and that's the beauty of music is like you could focus on the way one instrument sounds or what word is being said or what it means or like like the dance beat, how you dance to it. Like there's like a million ways to interpret and that people hear different things all the time.
Yeah. And you spend forever like on that hi-hat sound, but like most people aren't even going to hear that. Like,
Right.
not going to notice.
Another case for putting out the music that's like good enough and not just waiting
She's saying
till
this
it's
to
perfect.
me. I have a lot of unrelleased music.
Okay.
It's
Sure.
interesting, obviously, right?
It's loaded.
Which I
Yeah.
think is a
It's loaded.
There's weight over here.
Well, it's interesting because it's like, Paul does have like a big catalog of music. I think most artists probably do. It's the fun part's making the music. It's harder to get it like all the way across the finish line, all that. But I don't know. I get so attached to the versions as I hear them, and I'm like, I don't want anything to change. I just want to be able to find it on Spotify right now. Like, it's perfect to me.
Yeah.
I'm attached, so there's a bias in there because I've listened so many times.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever.
So
but-
why isn't it out, Paul?
Yeah, it is demoitis.
No, these are good points. Most of it is just time.
Oh yeah.
Like with That Kid Is You, JC and I, we did a thing on YouTube. We would just hang out with a friend and make a song in a day. And like, so we have like 18 of those. But they just went out on YouTube. We never like really mixed them, put them out on Spotify. She often will say like, why the fuck aren't those all
Because
out?
I'll hear them again after years, and I'm like, oh, I love that song.
And they are good. They're all
Yeah.
interesting songs. And like,
Yeah.
there's no pressure. It's like, we only have a day. No one's expecting much. Like, let's just do whatever. So
Why
you
don't you
kind
just
of...
have them mixed?
This is a great point. Because...
I mean, if they're
I don't
already, are you like cool with like the composition of them?
yeah, they're based, and they're even kind of mixed. You kind of mix as you go. And like, I
Yeah.
did put them out on YouTube. Like, I did bounce it out at one point. And
Yeah.
I think
on
also
YouTube.
though, like you guys were talking about earlier, when you wait too long, stuff stops feeling authentic to you, and then
Yeah.
by the time you circle back, it's sort of like old news in your own mind, and then it's harder to prioritize. I think,
Sure.
and then you prioritize the more recent projects and.
Right,
on
which
and
now
on you
sounds
go.
so much more high-fi,
Yeah.
and so much
course.
better.
You've gotten
It's like
That makes
we're
sense.
definitely
If you wait a year, you've gotten a year better. If you wait
Right.
2 years,
Right.
you've gotten 2 years better.
right.
Going back is
But I-
almost
But
impossible
I'll
for
always
most
make
artists.
the case for the unplugged version. Like
Yeah.
I like that
Yeah.
unpolished feature of a lot
Yeah.
of those songs so much. So
This is a common trait that I would say the biggest reason for artists to hire a producer is just to get it done and out.
Yeah.
To be 100% with you. Like,
To know where
because
the
every
finish line is.
artist that we work with, even ones that are really successful to not, it's like we have a great idea, boom, we got it. but we don't want to finish it. We're on to the next day. We have another great idea. Oh, wait, I got another idea. So we have all these like a catalog of ideas, but I think the biggest thing that we do is help artists just like pick and finish, you know? And that's like, I think that because every artist has that is the last obstacle, I feel like, that most artists have, like just finishing it and putting it out. Literally, yeah. That is the number one thing that I would be like, would get you there.
Yeah.
Like a terms on it where you're looking at it as this is a means to an end, where like when you go into the studio with us, you're knowingly going in that we're going to complete a project.
Yeah.
And what you choose to do with that afterwards is somewhat out of our control, depending on the person. But you know that you have a goal.
Yeah,
and without some of that, you know, you can tinker with the same song, rewrite it a million different ways, a million different times. You can set it aside because you're tired of it, and you just lack the motivation to surely get it across the last final 10%, which are all things that we felt too. So we understand,
and that's the hardest
how that
part.
happens.
It's literally the hardest part. That last 10%.
The last bit.
Hardest part.
I live at the 90%.
Yeah.
I have so many like half-baked fucking things.
Our biggest lesson of this, and I'll say this story, I think you guys will agree, but we had Coins EP come out. We did that before we even got signed. That got us signed, actually. So we got into a label deal with Red Bull Records, and we made a big record, you know, expensive, took a long time. We wrote for a long time. We did 12 songs or something. We got it all finished. Took 2 years, right? Like in between touring and all this stuff. Big mixer, big producer, did the whole thing. And then the labels, you know, after it's done, it's been done. We're like, cool, let's go. Like, well, let's get it going. And then the label's kind of just sitting on this thing, and we're just like, what's going on? Time's going by, and they're not releasing anything, or like nothing's happening, right? And then we were touring at the time, and we did a frat tour. We were doing Red Bull frat parties, and it was
painful.
Hey, frats need music too.
Okay. They need a lot of things.
Fireball.
But we played these obscene parties where it was very animalistic. But we came back and recovered because it was just Red Bull and water bottles full of brown liquor and shit.
Yeah.
Too much Fireball.
And but they were playing this song that we really liked by Ray Shremmer called No Type, and we were like, dude, we love that song. So we came back. And we kind of recovered, and then we like literally made our version of No Type, and then we were just like, fuck it, let's just put it out. So like it took 2 days
on SoundCloud. Right? Yeah, we recorded it and put it out within a week.
Yeah, it was like quick though. We were like, you know, and it was just us three that did it too. And then we put it out, and then like overnight, like one of our friends tweeted it, and it kind of like caught fire a bit, and overnight it had like probably tens of thousands of views. Like it went quick, and our label was so mad at us. They were so pissed, you know, that we like went around them and like released, you know, something. But it like just went on its own, and it did its own thing, and like we didn't think much about it. We just like put it out, and then you know, after they were less angry, you know, fast forward like a year and a half, they, you know, paid for a big radio campaign to like have it played at radio all over the country, you know, like at first they hated that we did it. They were so mad, you know, like holding up all of our music, making, you know, whatever. And, you know, it was a little bit of a rogue move, I will say, but it is a good example of like, we're just like, dude, we need stuff to come out. Like what's happening, you know, like. And then because we did that, it catalyzed all this other stuff to happen, you know.
Yeah, the sitting and waiting in the music industry is rampant.
Like waiting for the labels to do things,
everyone's waiting for this magical moment to make things happen. And I mean, we've been in that position. We've seen other artists that we've worked with be in that position. And I don't know, I just have the mentality that if something is happening, if you make something happen, taking risks, and if something's happening, people will be on board. Obviously, if it's like a weird copyright thing with like a Marvin Gaye song, whole other issue. But the fact that it got to Marvin Gaye in his camp probably means that it's doing well.
Right.
Examples like, what's that Bruno Mars song or whatever?
Blurred Lines? Was it
No.
Bruno.
Or
Blurred Lines got
Lines,
sued by
yeah.
Marvin
Blurred
Gaye.
Lines was that. I was thinking of the other Bruno Mars song with Mark Ronson.
Gotcha.
Anyways, but so like when we write songs and stuff, I'm always just of the mindset of like people, they're waiting for things to magically happen with no movement. No one's hearing the stuff. They want some magical viral moment on social media, on the internet, and they don't allow their artists to promote new music, and it's just this big stalemate. And I think the approach, like that one in itself, was the No Type thing. Another song that we worked on with Tessa Violet called Yes Mom that also was like a viral hit on TikTok. Same situation. Her team wasn't really fond of the song. We produced it right before the holidays. She did one TikTok video of it, and then shit just popped off. And we were like, okay, like now the whole team is on board. They're backing her. Then not only that, they want to finish the song ASAP, even though it's the holidays. And it's just like no one knows what they're searching for. And I feel like this is kind of like being a younger artist with you form your opinion circle around you. I think people are always after something that like has like a metric value. So it's like, oh, this song performed well, so we need more of that.
Right.
But in reality, you can't replicate things. You can't replicate experiences as a musician or as producers. You're constantly trying to find a new foothold that gets you all excited to make the best thing. And when you get to the comparison game of your prior work especially, like you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot. And at the end of the day, all anyone wants is just for something to perform well. So it's like the metrics go away once something that just lands. No one gives a fuck what it sounds like if it does well. It's the same thing with this girl in the viral thing, like the national anthem. It was like no one gives a fuck what it is on her team. They're just like, they're knocking on her door in rehab like, yo girl, you fucking famous right now.
Yeah, right.
And she's like,
you're blowing up on TikTok right now. Yeah.
They're like, yo man, like, bro, your album just went double platinum. And it's that sort of thing. And it just, I think for us, at least I think we're at a position that we aren't bogged down by those things, but we try to guide and be like, the Luke Skywalkers or the Yodas, guiding people to the light and really maintaining their artistry. But it is one of those things where I feel like business people's opinions are so subject to change to something that something works. The second that something works. So for us, when we're making stuff, is like all you can do is be honest to what you're working on. Because even if you made a carbon copy replica of the thing that did well, you still don't know if it would do well because cultural timing, relevance of a certain lyric, word, a dance, or like what they were wearing in the video, all these things that sum up to a magical moment that makes a hit song. It's like you can't forge it again. Like you can't you can't forge an experience twice. It happens once and that's it. And the next experience is the next experience, and if it sucks, then that's okay. That one just wasn't as good.
Or maybe it didn't suck, but maybe it wasn't as big.
It wasn't as big. And then the next time you do something else and it's like, damn, I wasn't expecting this one, because like the best moments in your life, you can't, if you had like a beautiful moment at like, let's say like the time that you met or whatever, and then you tried to go like recreate the exact same moment. I mean, it might conjure up some feelings, but you can't replicate the same thing.
Yeah.
And I feel like when it comes down to metrics, it's all about like this carbon copy situation, when in the end, everyone just wants a song that does well and resonates with people. And I feel like people tend to forget that because they're so caught up in the numbers.
Yeah.
And once you get that thing that works, and funny enough for us, it's always been the things that business people fucking told us not to do, which is, I don't know, maybe that's me even just playing it up because I want to be a rebel on that front. But even still, like we took those risks, and the second that it worked, everyone was on board, and it didn't matter. No one cared any longer about what the song was, all these things. It was like, oh, this is working. Like now the team can activate and hopefully do their job that they're supposed to do, which is market and promote the record and allow the artist the space to create it, and not dictate what the artist is supposed to do, what they're supposed to say. obviously there's guidance in a lot of these people when they're done correctly. I think can be extremely beneficial to an artist, but the second that you start to try to control what they're doing and saying, I feel like it's a slow, steady downhill decline until the artist is like either losing their own identity or just simply doesn't want to make music for a while, and then they have to like have a rebirth.
Right.
Yeah.
Go to rehab.
Yeah.
I mean, all those
After singing the national anthem.
Yeah.
all those things, all
Going
those
triple
deep,
platinum now.
all those deep feelings he's talking about is why, you know, we're more focused on process-based things that we can control. You know, it's like, how many songs can we do? How many artists can we work with? How can we improve our studio process? You know, whatever it is. Like you guys, you were saying earlier in this podcast, you're at 100 plus episodes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you guys have figured out your process, you know, like, and that is the success. It's like having genuine moments with people, genuine conversations, and you know, you've gotten good at filming them and recording them and putting them out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's it. That's the moments are the conversations and stuff. So it's already a success out inwardly, which is really what matters, because you can control that. The outward viral moments, like what, I don't know what, you know, like it's like chasing a dragon. You know,
Yeah.
it's like
Sure.
what is the point to that? You know,
Yeah.
so it like, you know, so your songs on your hard drive, you know, figure out a process where you're like, okay, like maybe I'll release, you know, 2 songs a month, and or like maybe one new one and one old one, and I'll, you know, figure out the mixes, and you know, and like these ways of marketing that I can handle that like makes sense in my workflow, that's not like taxing, but it's like makes sense, you know, like, and more focus on the process of releasing, you know, your surplus of music, your back catalog, you know.
Yeah, it's good advice. Good advice. I'll try. I mean, it's time too. Like time is
Or
so much time.
Or simply just put it out as is.
Yeah.
Right.
And just
Like,
be done with it.
Yeah.
Also,
Yeah.
too, when a song does really well, there's always like 9 versions of the same song. You can like,
True.
it's like, oh, it's working. Okay, I'm gonna like mix it or whatever, do a
Right.
remix.
A
It's, you
remix,
know,
yeah.
like
A
literally
first,
like
a first mix.
Yeah.
any song that has like a billion streams,
Slow it
they
down,
have,
speed it up.
yeah,
Yeah.
they have all the versions, you know,
Right,
that
yeah.
are collecting, you know,
Yeah.
streams.
Right.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah. It's good. It's good advice. Yeah, and there's something too about like, if you never release things, sometimes you sit down to make music and you're like, but I've got, like, what should I work on? You know, like I've got all this shit sitting here. It's like a burden. Versus getting things out, you feel like I can make new things now, because it's like I'm looking at an empty canvas a little
You've
more.
emptied out the dirty bathwater
Right.
for
Yeah.
the clean hot water.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's just part of the momentum and the process, that kind of circling all the way back to the beginning, when we encourage artists to finish, get it over the finish line and be proud of it and get it out for the world. That's something in our strength, completing things.
Yeah, that's big. Completing things is probably my biggest weakness.
I think it's everyone's.
Yeah.
To be honest,
I mean, it is for
somehow we found a rhythm in doing it.
But it is for us too, though. Like for
Yeah.
our like, it's easy, you know, to work on other people's stuff. We were talking about this earlier in the studio too, where, you know, it's easier for us to be outside of a project, being like, well, this is what you need to do, and then
Right.
when you're inside the project, we're like, well, we can't do that, you know, like whatever, you know, like it's just like, so, you know, and even us doing our own stuff, it's like, you know, well, we're just busy, so it's harder, you know, but then at the same time, it's like, it's energetically, it's a different process.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah, it feels different. Like, you know, I was saying I work with Steve-O, and sometimes if I have to, I'll put in like a 10-hour day, because like that's just what the day called for, and like that's what I got to do. But like, I don't really think of my own shit that much necessarily. It's like I'll do like 3 hours, and I'll be like, all right, that's probably good enough. You know, like treating your own shit how you treat working for other people, helping other people is a challenge too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and like how nice to have partnership too, where you have people that can keep nudging you along when you start dropping back. They're still,
Absolutely.
their pace
Yeah.
is still up here, and you got to catch up. And
Yeah, the
you just
accountability.
like,
Right.
you know, keep moving along. It's so much harder when you're doing it
Yeah.
by yourself.
When,
Yeah.
when you're working with an artist, does it ever happen that's like, we're working on a project, we made 15 songs, but really like these 12, that's the album. Like, let's leave those 3 out. Does that happen often?
Yeah.
Like, is that a frustrating thing? Because it's like,
All the
those are
time,
unfinished, you know? Does that, is there something?
Some of them might be completely finished. Some of them we might even like.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you ever scrap them for parts, or, you know, what do you do with
Some occasionally.
Depends, yeah, sometimes we do. Sometimes we do scrap them for parts. Sometimes, like, you know, we just did a writing trip in Colombia and some verses on some songs that were on a prior writing session. Camp recycled, wound up on some new things. Whether those ones will wind up on the full record, who knows? But and these are all things, as we become less precious about our work, we see all the pieces as tools to be used wherever, whenever, and it's not so much like hung up on a singular part. It's like, oh, this verse is great. The rest of the song wasn't, I guess. And if that one if that verse winds up being the missing piece here, great. So I feel like more now than ever, we're looking at every bit of music that we make as it's something with potential to be used, and it's never dead. And our goal is to not allow it to sit on a hard drive. So whether we're selling it to an artist, sync and licensing, whether we're pitching it to A&Rs at labels, all these things are avenues for us. And it's just a matter of, like, where's the home going to be? Or, like, where's the best place for it to see the world? And if that place doesn't work out, like, what's plan B, C, and D for, or whatever, all the way. So we figure out where it belongs. And then, you know, because even in our like idea of how things are falling down, like that sort of plan, if a song that is synced in a movie, that, let's say Jeff's singing on it, and then like a big artist heard it, and we control the master, and that artist is like, yo, I love this song, I really want to cut it for my record, then we're like, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like, here's our fee, we'll produce it, and we'll figure it out with your label, talk to our lawyer, all good.
Nice.
So for us, it's like there's no lose anymore, and we also do things that are speculative with artists too, and I feel like more and more we're just looking at all these things as opportunities. And like, second, if someone works with us in the studio, we all have stake in the song, but ultimately we create the master, and it's subject for pitch, you know, like, and again, I just look at it as like, if we're working with a singer or an artist that may not be as motivated in their career to be in the position where we want to be, if that song were to get on like a Sabrina Carpenter record, like, I don't think that person is going to be mad. If anything, we did them a massive favor and perhaps sparked their career in a way that they never would have been able to. So I think that's just how we're starting to look at it.
Yeah. I like the letting go of preciousness, perfectionism. Like, perfectionism is procrastination, you know, in a lot of ways, at least for an artist putting out their own stuff.
Well, my opinion on it is, if you're a real artist, it's never done. Like, it's never gonna be perfect. Like, it's impossible to achieve. Like, especially if you are like really precious about something, it'll never be perfectly right.
Because there is no like objective perfect.
Yeah.
It's always like
and especially when there's more people involved, then that's like, you know, it's one thing if you're by yourself, it's another thing if there's more people involved. But, and just for the fact that there is no like clear ending, then why be precious at all with it, really? Like, kind of, because it'll never be perfect. It's unachievably perfect. Like, it's just unachievable.
Right. And that's not to say you don't like, let's fucking make it dope.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
You give a fuck.
You gotta get it. You gotta get it to a certain level, obviously. But then, like, what from there? Where are you gonna go? You know, it's like,
dinner's made.
I think it's more of like, it's
the peppers
let's
too
let
much,
it go.
get it better the next time.
Get
let it go so you can work on the next one. You know, put that energy that you're spiraling on this one. Just let it go. Be like, because there's always another song. You know, there's always another something to make. You know, whatever you do. So it's like, all right, that one's gone. The next one will be better, but we got that one finished now. So, you know. I like to think of it like that personally. Like, sort of like, let's move to the next one, do better. Yeah.
Also, like, we do have songs that have been sitting around for years and years, you know, like, whether it's band stuff or stuff we're writing with people or producer stuff, whatever it is, you know, and you just never know. You never know when you can use that, where you can use that. It's just like, you know, like there's a time and a place, you know, they're kind of like properties, you know, it's like where, like what makes sense, you know, like, and you know, in the current, also too, in like with technological advances, and like right now it could be one thing, and then later on it could be like a whole other thing. So, you know, even just making and like having process of like accomplishing things, I think is the more valuable thing, because you just never know later on what it could turn into, you know?
Yeah. It's true. Yeah. Inspiring stuff, man. But this has been awesome. I appreciate it. It's good to see you guys.
Yeah.
Really
it's
good
great to see you.
Yeah.
And it's great to meet you as well.
Back at you.
Awesome to meet you.
Yeah.
That was cool seeing you at the
show.
Picket
Yeah.
show.
Yeah, it was great. I know. I got there. I was like, Paul playing drums? What?
Yeah, man.
Worlds colliding.
It was dope. But yeah, fucking great to see you. Thanks for doing this, and
Of course. Thanks for having us.
yeah, we'll
Yes.
stay in touch. I'm excited that we've reconnected, and
Next time we're in Tucson, we will be visiting.
Awesome.
Definitely.
Yes.
Come by. We'll have the
We
studio
hope to
set
have
up.
a dreamy music studio set up.
Dope.
for
Sweet.
All the vibes.
Get the
all
slip and slide
ambiance.
ready.
Oh, God. Slip and slide around all the cactus. What could go wrong?
Scorpion.
Yeah.
All right, fuck yeah. New Be Fun. Check them out. Good night, everybody.
Later.
Yay.
Bye.
Fuck yeah.
Awesome.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll turn
Thanks,
down
guys.
here so we can chill. It's always, we turn it way up for the, so it's not pumping the whole time.
Oh, that's all good.
Halfway through, I'm like, oh yeah.